Scott Schebler, thanks for joining me, man. I know it's been a long time coming, but I appreciate you, hopping on the pod.
No, this is awesome. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
So, your story is really neat, and not a lot of people probably know about your story. And the way I got connected to you is DMAC guy, right? So I coached at Des Moines Area Community College after retiring in 2016, and that's the place you played. So, I guess take us back and give us kind of a high level, growing up as a kid, like when you started playing baseball, and then how you got to DMAC, I guess, in that story or pathway.
Yeah, I mean, baseball was definitely the first thing I did as a kid. My parents told me I picked up a bat left-handed, never changed me. So that was kind of my first love. And then high school came around, football got all the notoriety. I didn't wrestle, but that was like big in Iowa as well. So growing up, I did travel ball, all those fun things. I was super active. My parents told me when I got to high school that if I was playing a sport, I didn't have to get a job. My sister tested the waters on that. She's older than me, and they weren't kidding. Like, she didn't do – I think she quit, like, soccer or something one year, and they made her get a job. So I was like, oh, they're serious about this. So I'm like, I'm going to play every sport just so I don't have to get a job in high school. Ended up working out. I mean, I thought it was really cool. But, baseball was my first love. Turned into football pretty quickly. You get in front of the lights, the fans, it makes it super fun, and baseball was kind of on the back burner for a little bit. But, I would say my first love was baseball, and then, last love was baseball as far as sports goes.
Yeah. And what position do you play in football, like in high school?
Yeah, I was a really good punter. I was an all-state punter, which is always like a really funny
it's a fun fact.
Yeah, fun fact. I was an all-star punter. I played safety and then wide receiver.
Got it.
So,
and were you getting looked at for colleges in high school?
I definitely was for football.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was taking them serious. I went to some camps at like University of Iowa State. It was going to be more of like a preferred walk-on deal unless I had like a really good senior season. But I went to a football practice at Iowa, and like I saw the speed and like the velocity that they hit, and that was when the CTE stuff was coming out as well.
Yeah.
And my mom was just like, "That's not gonna happen." So, and then kind of got into baseball, which I can go into that as well.
So, did you have any concussions going through football?
Oh, I'm sure I did. I think I had a concussion. I know for sure I had a concussion in basketball. I went up for a rebound, got undercut, landed on the back of my head. And for the rest of the game, from halfway down, it was blurry. So I guarantee that had to be something, yeah.
Yeah, it's not normal.
I played the rest of the game, and I was fine the next day. But, yeah, that was definitely – but like, when we grew up, that wasn't really, like, a topic.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, can you see straight or can you not?
Yeah,
like,
there's fingers
I mean, they barely did that back then. So, I'm sure I had my fair share of concussions. And – what was it? The Will Smith movie came out.
Yeah,
about my high school years. Yeah. So
so that kind of
stopped it. And honestly, I didn't like hitting people. I liked the offensive side, and no college was like, yeah, you're going to play offense.
Yeah, they all liked you maybe for being a safety.
Safety, yeah.
So was it after your practice at Iowa that you're like, and then the combination of that CTE stuff coming out where you're like, baseball might be the thing?
Yeah, I think I just kind of just transitioned out of like thinking I like went from that practice, I saw it, and I'm like, I don't think I can do that physically. Like, I don't want to, and I don't think I have the will or the want to hit somebody and take those kind of hits on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I really didn't enjoy hitting people. I was fine offensively, like giving the hit, but like, and then like I said, baseball kind of took off. My college coach, Dan Fitzgerald, who recruited me pretty heavily, and Perfect Game ended up being in my hometown. So there was like a combination of stuff that was like, okay, there's this other path, and there's like a way out of football, because I honestly thought football was gonna be it for me, and I just kind of leaned into it a little bit.
Yeah. Now, talk to me a little bit, because you shared with me that you're pretty focused on, I believe at the time, basketball, your senior year, and you spoke to Dan Fitzgerald. But you had told me that this dude was like showing up to your basketball games, like making sure that you were going to try to come to campus.
He was like, stalker-ish. Like, he was at every basketball. I mean, it was wild. He would drive in the middle of winter through a winter storm if I was having a basketball game to sit next to my parents. he saw something that obviously I didn't or my parents didn't, but he's like, I remember telling him after a basketball game, this is in the middle of winter, and he's recruiting for baseball. And he's at a basketball game with my parents, and I had a bad game, so I'm just in a bad mood in general. And I went up to him, I was like, hey, like, I'm committed to DMAC. Like, nobody else is recruiting me. Like why do you keep showing
paranoid?
Well, yeah, it's like he's like complete paranoid, which honestly was good on his part because my senior year kind of changed. So he just like, first of all, I mean, I'd love to get into Fitzgerald at some point. He's like, he changed the course of my career. But yeah, I think that paranoia and just like he was there and he saw something clearly in me that I really didn't see. And it was he was at everything. It was wild. My parents are like, man, we might as well make him a room at the house kind of a thing.
Love that. So then you commit in the fall of your senior year to DMAC, or when did you officially commit?
I think it was my junior year I actually committed. Yeah, but then the big engine of Perfect Game got going for me because it was my hometown, and at that time, and I don't mean this disrespect if any of the Sweeneys see this, but like Ryan Sweeney was like pretty much a first rounder, big leaguer at that time, and then Kellen. I just remember somebody saying something to somebody at Perfect Game like, hey, you're kind of missing on Scott, essentially. Yeah. And they ramped up. Whatever they did, whoever made the phone calls for Perfect Game, they were like, hey, if you're looking at Kellen, you should be looking at Scott, kind of a thing. And then my senior year, I went on a bunch of visits. Florida International, Maryland, like all these places that were kind of like out there. And being from Iowa, I'm like going to all these places. It was kind of crazy. Yeah. But at that point, when they recruited me, I was so like wanting to be near home, and I can get into like the homesickness stuff later when I got into pro ball. But I definitely wanted to be close to home. And at that time, I mean, Fitz was just like I said, he was the most committed coach I've ever seen to me, where I was like, okay, like if I got a chance, this is the guy to do it with.
Sure. So then you show up to campus. Now, I'll give the audience kind of a brief context to my experience there just a little bit, because I think it's not too far different from yours, but Des Moines Area Community College is actually where they play baseball is not located in Des Moines. It's located in Boone, Iowa, which is about 45 minutes straight north of Des Moines. And the real campus, the big one, is in Ankeny. It's magical. It's beautiful.
Yeah, huge. And, huge, like 25,000 people at this main campus.
Don't ever send a recruit there. That happened to me early.
Oh, yeah. You sent them to the main campus?
Well, they Googled it.
Oh, and yeah. I mean, I probably would have done the same thing.
Showed up to the main campus, and then they're like, hey, where's the baseball field? I'm like.
I also think that's why Fitz never brought me to DMAC. Like, he always came to see me.
Smart.
Smart. And by the time we had gotten to that point, I did a visit eventually, but it was like way down the line when I'd already had all this connection with him. I think that was genius on his part. It's like, hey, I got to sell myself more than I sell this place. Because it is, a
unique place.
It's a unique place. I mean, you're going to college, and I don't mean disrespect with this, but like you're going to college and people are bringing their kids to class. Like it's kind of one of those areas where it's like, hey, I have like a couple 40-year-olds in my class that brought their kids to class. Like that's kind of the environment you're in. You're there to play baseball, and they're not there for school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think there was a coach somewhere in Division I football where like he will bring recruits in at a certain time, like in the evening, so when they drive through certain areas, they can't see it all.
I mean, you have to know. Like you have to.
It's not a bad area. It's just more or less the facilities given, and I think the program was in a pretty good spot then too. But it's like, up until like 5 years ago, the indoor facility in the off season, because during spring, summer, it's fine, fall, but in Iowa, it's brutal. It's brutal, harsh conditions. You need to be inside probably 5-6 months out of the year, minimum. And the indoor facility was it was in a barn, but it wasn't just any barn. It was a swine barn. It was where they literally had pigs.
Months earlier
inside, and then what we would do,
and
you probably had to do it.
It wasn't well cleaned either after the pigs left.
No, it wasn't well cleaned, but then we would take rolls of turf. Okay, and these were probably the same rules. So I coached there in 2016.
Yeah,
your last year was
I went through the
2010.
We built it ourselves.
But it's like you roll out these rolls of turf that have been sitting outside for 6 to 7 months that have probably been peed on, because there's no bathroom at the field. So it just was so bad. And then, you have the metal bats in there with this.
And swine flu that was a big thing when I was there too. So I read swine and I'm like, what are we doing? Like,
it's crazy.
It was wild. It was a wild time. I look back at those moments with like a different perspective now, and like that's kind of the appreciation of it, because it definitely built who I am, and like I think just like the humility of it a little bit is nice, and not everybody gets to witness that stuff and go through those hard times, but that builds grit and builds a bunch of characteristics that athletes tend to have because of situations like that. You just kind of have to you ride with it. You ride with it, man.
So dangerous too. Like hardly can see in there.
I don't know what they're doing now. I doubt they're doing
No, they
that.
have. I mean, they have since then built an addition onto the gym. It's a multi-sport court. They have a whole full weight room. Like
I imagine. Yeah,
it's a whole different setup. But I think that is part of your story. I went to a junior college, not to that extent, but it was like you're there to play baseball, so to speak. But it's like if people were able to see, where and the facilities, like it's pretty incredible that you came out of that place. So now you obviously drew some attention, for your senior year, but you want to stick close to home. But things obviously took off for you a little bit because you were a one-and-done guy. You got drafted, after 1 year of JUCO, which I don't want to say is like unheard of, but it's pretty, uncommon, especially if you have a commitment somewhere.
Yeah.
Which Fitzy was a guy that was selling you come 1 year and go to D1.
He told me immediately, it's like, you're going to come here 1 year and you'll be able to go wherever you want.
Yeah.
And he was pretty spot on with that.
Yeah.
He was very spot on. I mean, just to give you a glimpse into like one of our practices, which there was no practice limitations at JUCO. So it was like 6 a.m. mornings, 3 hours, then 3 or 4 hours at night. I had a group of psychos with me, which was great. It was like really good for me because they were like, oh, we'll turn the lights on. Like, we'll just keep extending the practice. So, I mean, talking about like the 10,000 hours, I feel like I put a lot of time in there during that time because there really wasn't anything else to do. All you had to do was focus on baseball. And that was a beautiful thing for me because I had focused on so many different sports in high school. It was nice to actually just narrow it down and be like, all right, this is what I'm going to perfect. Whereas before it was like, oh, like if I have a crappy season here, I have this sport after. So it was always a different mindset of like, oh, I'll just move on, which is not a bad mindset to have for baseball in general, is moving on.
Yeah.
But I was able to perfect it, and not in a fashion where like I chose to do it. Whereas I feel like some of the younger generation now, when they specialize at 8 years old, it's not really by choice.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get the burnout rate. That usually comes after that, where when it's your own choice when you're an adult, it's a way different, I think, mindset towards it.
Yeah. And youth baseball right now, that's a whole podcast in itself. It's seriously. A dumpster fire, but you play baseball in the beginning because it's fun, right? It's a kid's game. And what happens now in youth baseball is they're playing freaking 50 to 70 games when they're 9 years old.
Yeah.
And then they're in the tournament world. And so they only play really like Friday through Sunday, but they'll play 6 games. And they have these like it's ridiculous what's happening. And then they get to 13 years old. They want to be done. They
want to be done.
It's like you want to leave.
But they built the brand at 13, and they kind of have to keep going down that route because it's all they know. They've essentially built their identity by the time they're 12 years old, which is really scary, honestly, that they've built an identity in sport by 12 years old. I had not. I'm not saying I'm like my story or the way I did it is the correct way. There's so many different ways to do it, but I do think having your identity wrapped up in something, and we can get into identity stuff with athletes when you get done, but having it at such crucial years to have your identity be wrapped up in sports already at 12 years old that's kind of a recipe for disaster in my opinion.
Yeah. Now talk to me about Fitzy. So you're there. I know you said he had a huge impact, and you're only there for 1 year. And how, like, obviously he's the one that recruited you and kind of, hey, here's the path to where I think he can go to get to the big leagues probably. But talk to me about the impact that he made, on your career.
Yeah, you can just look at where he's at now and best communicator I've ever been around. Like understands that we talk about it all the time with guys that I played with. Best communicator. He knew how to get the best out of people. So talent development was insane, but the way he did it, he read people better than I've ever seen anybody else. He treated everybody slightly different to get the best out of them. So for me, the way he would treat me is like he knew he had to like, this is going to sound bad, but like challenge me, but maybe in like a condescending way of like, oh, are you going to roll over 3 times a day in the game or something like that? And that was like a challenge. Like that's how he did it. He probably hate me broadcasting this, but that's how he challenged me. And he knew very early on I needed to be challenged, otherwise I would be complacent.
Yeah.
He couldn't do that with everybody though. You do that to somebody else and they're like, oh, they'd be pouting and that just wouldn't work, where he would build other people up.
Yeah.
So like the awareness that he had and just the emotional intelligence he has, off the charts. Absolutely insane. And that's why he is where he is today. He said it. I mean, I follow him. I talk to him still all the time. He is a builder. Like he at his core, he is a builder. It's what he is.
Yeah. I mean, and what he was able to do in the short amount of time when he was at DMAC was really impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, if you saw the facilities at the time, they're much better. But what he was able to do in the short amount of time he was there, I think, 2 or 3 World Series appearances, maybe more. Pretty impressive coming out of that place.
He would spend the first hour of practice because, like I said, there's no practice restrictions like there are at D1, D2, all these more affiliated, I guess, universities. But he spent the first hour just like ingraining into us like getting better every day, challenging, like a very, very motivational. And then he would spend the next 2 hours on the phone with recruiters or scouts trying to get them to come to our games. Yeah. Like he promoted us better than anybody else could have because the amount of time he would spend on the phone. We used to joke like we would love to see his phone bill. Because back then, I don't think they had like unlimited minutes, you know? So I'd love to see his phone bill. Like that, we always used to joke about that. And it was kind of funny. There was a couple, you're at a junior college, so you're not getting, some kids are there talent-wise, they could be D1, but educationally.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you get what I'm saying.
You're getting a mixed bag.
I mean, it was so funny. I mean, we just had some characters. We had some absolute characters. And like, he was just an unbelievably quick-witted guy. And he fit the mold perfectly. And I definitely look back on those times and be like, what a crazy time, but also like I forged friendships then that I still have today. Yeah.
Well, I think some of my best friendships too come from junior college, and I think a lot of it has to do with the time. Like you spend
every day, every second.
Dorms, right? We had a very similar setup. Where it's
I feel bad for you then.
Well, I mean, it's like your freshman year, you were required to live on campus. I think at DMAC, they make everybody be on campus.
Yeah, Morgan Square was it.
Yeah. But it's like, you better like your teammates because you're going to be you're going to be in class with them. You're going to be in the dorms with them. You're going to be you can't really escape it. So it's like some of that is the amount of time. And then when you're spending unlimited amount of time of practice, it's like you just forge those relationships. Like some of the best relationships that I have and some of my best friends come from junior college.
Yeah, I think there's you're kind of in the suck together a little bit. And it has that feel to it where you're just like, dude, let's try to enjoy this the best we can. We know it's gonna be short lived, which is also mindset easier to wrap your head around. But it's just like, man, let's just figure out a way to make this as best as I can.
And I would argue, obviously, I didn't play the big leagues like you, but junior college baseball, out of all the baseball I played, was by far my favorite. And I don't know, there's just something. I don't know if it's just like more the title that comes with JUCO, where it's like you're in the dirt, you're in the weeds, but it's just like, man, when I look back at some of my most favorite moments, it was like in the trenches with the boys against another team.
Yeah,
and I don't know if it's just the time, because I get to Division I, it's like you have time restrictions on practice and contact, and you got all these other things going on where you don't spend as much time. You still do, but it's not.
It's so narrow focused when you're there. Like you're there to play. Yeah. Like the schooling for me personally was easier than high school. It was so easy. Like the curriculum was not to talk too poorly about it, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good, and focus was baseball. And since I left, I feel like junior college has gotten a much better name.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of big draft picks that will go to junior college for a year because they didn't get drafted where they wanted to, and now you can be eligible. And I feel like junior college is a much cleaner path than it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be like, you got a chance to get out of here, but unless you find the right situation with the right coach, or you're in a feeder program like the LSU feeder program, like you're kind of in no man's land a little bit.
Yeah.
You need to outshine everybody, and you need to get lucky that somebody's there on the right day.
Well, I feel like JUCO too, unless you're like a dude out of high school, like why wouldn't you entertain the thought? Because the reality is, like, 3 years of an age gap is a huge deal at that age, 18 to 21, right? And it's like, unless you know, or you don't want to go somewhere where you're just going to get a shoe-in of a job, but like, unless you know you're going to have a chance to compete for either at-bats or innings, like, that's how you get better, is by playing. You don't get better by sitting. Yes, you can get better. You can hit tee. You can do all that, but you need game experience. You need that experience. And if you go 2 years and you get 40 at-bats, you get your summer at-bats in the Northwoods or whatever league you go to, which now guys aren't getting sent out because NIL. It's a whole other story. But it's like, if you're good enough now but you're not getting what you want, why wouldn't you go JUCO? You have not unlimited, but you're probably going to get 100-plus ABs in the fall because you play a ton in the fall, more than my junior college. That was eye-opening. And then you're going to get at-bats in the spring. So, like, you're going to go to your Division I with, maybe 400 ABs, more than that. I don't even know what they get in junior college. But it's like, instead of going the first 2 years of your career, backing up the dude and not getting the game experience, in my opinion, it's a much easier path unless you're an absolute dude.
Yeah, and I don't know the pitching side as well, but I can tell you from a hitting side, taking 2 years off potentially to go to a Division I school, that is the worst decision you can make. Like, does it work out sometimes? Yeah. But also, you're playing some intramural. It's just not the same. Pitching for me personally is a little different. You guys can have this similar intensity on the mound. Yeah. Problem is you can't replicate game like at bats unless you're in a game. There's no replicating it. They've tried. I mean, they got screens now. They got all these technology, and there's still. I mean, there's nothing that's going to replicate it unless you're in the box facing somebody.
I would argue the same as far as pitchers. The biggest thing is, like, you get all these facility throwers now. Yeah. Throw gas, have nasty stuff. Whether or not they throw strikes is always a flip a coin. But then none of them can hold base runners. Yeah. Don't know how. Yeah. Like, well, I mean, if you like, only they have zero concept. It's not being taught, because most of the good ones now are not, coaching at those levels. But it's like, There is, like, the amount of guys when I was coaching that I had to tell. So runner on second base, right-handed pitcher, they're jumping the arm side to pick the second, to turn glove side. Like the amount of times I've had to explain that during my coach is just baffling to me. But it's like it's not being taught, and then they don't even understand holding, like, for 3 seconds or 5 seconds or zero concept. It's just come, set, go, throw hard. And
I do wonder if we'll have a little bit of a change.
I
mean, the amount of surgeries that are happening now, and then no shifting anymore. I mean, when I finished playing the shift, I feel like in my career I saw
everything.
Everything changed within my 13 years of playing. It was insane. But yeah, stringing together 3 hits back when I retired was extremely hard. Yeah. It was extremely hard. So I understood the philosophy. Now that that's kind of changed, I do wonder if we're going to evolve a little bit again.
No, I think you make a good point. Now, talk to me about when you're at DMAC, you did commit. Was it Wichita State?
Wichita State, yeah.
Okay, so you got was it by Gene or no? Was it Gene? It was Gene.
Yeah, Gene.
Okay.
Yeah, it was before the whole thing went down. Yeah.
So you were committed there. So that was your plan. You're going to go one and done, but then, you had a good season at DMAC. Right? And then what happened next? Because you went to the Northwoods, and it sounds like from what you told me, you had a decent summer, and you had teams interested, leading up to the draft.
I think if I look back just at baseball in general, I think I just had a very naive outlook on certain things. And I think that's a little bit of Iowa. And just because I had a great season at DMAC. Went to the Northwoods League. Went to Green Bay, which loved. Went there with one of my good buddies, Joel, and was kind of tearing up the league.
Yeah.
With a wood bat, which was
Yeah.
eye-opening for a lot of scouts.
Such a fun league.
Oh, it's a great.
At that
you're
time.
going to Madison. There's 7,000 people.
Yeah.
Beer gardens like 3,000. I mean, it's insane.
It's fun.
And the Wisconsin ladies can drink too, and they.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Minnesotans
They're
too.
louder than the guys. It's crazy, but yeah, I think that was eye-opening for scouts. Like, okay, he can do it with a wood bat. He can do it against guys from the University
And
of
under
Texas.
pressure,
Yeah,
there's some element of that.
So it was the closest thing to minor league baseball that I've ever seen.
Yep.
That being said, when I first got into minor league baseball, I was like, holy crap, this is a different level in general. Yeah. But went there, had a great season, and this is kind of the naive part of it. I didn't know I was going to get drafted, and I started about, what was it, June, so you probably have about a month. I had about a month of baseball at the Northwoods League before the draft. Started getting calls like a couple weeks before the draft. Don't have an agent.
Had you had phone calls up until that point?
Not really. Like,
maybe a questionnaire or two.
Yeah, questionnaire, which you'd fill out,
Sure.
and then Fitzy saying, "Hey, I think you got some interest if you go have a good year or have a good summer." But yeah, just like I said, just a little bit naive, and so I'm like negotiating my own like stuff with scouts and like cross checkers or like,
okay.
Hey, we'll take you in the 7th round if you say you're going to take $100,000. I'm 18 years old. Like, I'm like, that sounds great. You know, like, and honestly, I wish I would have lied. I wish I would have lied.
You're like, seriously?
Yeah. You do that right now? That'd be great. But yeah, I actually, so it's just me and my parents negotiating this stuff.
Oh, jeez.
Which we can only mess it up. You can only mess it up.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's part of the being naive and being from Iowa, and a little bit of that is like not knowing what the consequences of those things. Because if I would have done it right, I would have probably lied, said, yeah, take me in the 6th round, and then I'm a 6th rounder now, and it's easier to negotiate. That's probably what an agent would have told you. Maybe not.
You definitely don't give numbers.
You don't give numbers, yeah.
And I'm not talking from a guy that gave numbers, but talking to guys, it's like you never want to give them a number.
Yeah, be like,
give me 6th round money or give me whatever. You know?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know,
no, you don't.
They're just
Why
like,
would
hey,
you?
Will you sign in the 6th round for $100,000? Yes or no? And this is like while the draft's going
You're
on.
like, yes.
I'm like taking phone calls and just doing it myself.
So this is while the draft is going on?
Yeah.
So like when somebody
asks, this is like first round's going on, like, hey, we're thinking about taking you in the 6th round. Like, will you take $100,000?
What'd you say?
I said no, because at that time I had conversations before with my parents, and they were like, yeah, I don't think that's enough to move the needle with you getting a full ride to Wichita State.
I would agree. Yeah.
And so I said no. Granted, if I had an agent, it probably would have worked out way differently. I probably would have ended up a lot more money, because they would have been able to be like, yeah, take him in the 6th round, give him 6th round money, he'll sign. Or at least you can follow. So that draft and follow was a huge thing back then. Not so much now, because you could sign.
It's back, right?
It's back.
But
now.
It's different now. But okay. Yeah, it's.
I mean, you can. I mean, I signed the very last day with like an hour left, which is a whole nother story, which I'll get into right after this. And so I was like, yeah, I gave him a range, I gave him a range of like what it would take to sign, and pretty much everybody's like, yeah, okay, see you later. Except for the Dodgers ended up.
Do you remember what it was at the time? Was it like 2 to 500?
Yeah, I don't know. So the dumbest thing I ever did was put a range, because they're never going to go to the top of the range.
Never.
Like I said, I'm negotiating as an 18-year-old with people that have done this for a living, professionals. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, I want $300,000 to $500,000, $300,000 to $500,000. I'll sign. And yeah, they all kind of laughed me off the phone a little bit, like, oh, you're not going to get that. And I was like, okay, well, then I'll just go to college. And the Dodgers ended up dropping me in the 26th round. And they were like, yeah, we're not willing to give you that money yet, but we're going to follow you through the Northwoods League. And then we really want to bring you down to this like, kind of, I guess it would be like a perfect game thing, but they ran it themselves. It was their own training camp.
Yeah, they used. I don't know if they still do that now, because the combine.
A lot. Yeah, it's essentially their own combine.
Yeah.
And
did they do that before the draft or after?
So they did it after the draft.
Okay.
Yeah,
they used to do it before and kind of like bringing guys that they might.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because I mean, maybe it was before. I can't remember, but I remember after that it was like, okay, everything's changed essentially after that, because I ended up running like a 6'4". 60.
It's absurd, by the way.
And I was always told like, hey,
it's crazy.
It was pretty. I mean, for my size too. and all that, they were like, wow, it's like they always say, speed you can't teach kind of a thing. So
No.
that's one of those ones that they're like, okay, if you have that, great. Like it's a tool
Yep. It's
you
one
can
of the
always
five tools.
you can always have. So, but yeah, essentially I was negotiating my own deal. Got drafted 26th round. They're like, hey, like let's just ride out this North Woods League. Like $300,000 for where that's at is a little expensive, and I ended up tearing it up the rest of the year. Like, I don't know if I was in the running for MVP of the league and all that stuff. And then at the end of it, they were like, hey, we're going to hit your number. We're going to hit 300. Like I said, dumb to put a range because they're never going to go above the bottom of your range.
And they're probably like, dude, 300 is a steal right now.
That's probably what they were thinking. And at that point, they were thinking they weren't going to sign Zach Lee, who ended up signing later on for like $5 million. But he was going to go to LSU as a quarterback at that point. So that freed up money because they thought they couldn't sign him. This comes full circle. At that time, so they're like, hey, we're going to fly you out to LA, bring you to the stadium, we'll have you sign, give you $300,000.
Yep.
I'm like ecstatic.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Mom, let's get a flight. Like, we're going out here. So we fly out there, and I had gotten an agent at that point.
Okay.
Casey Blake's dad.
Okay.
Dad kind of hung around our practices a lot, and Casey Blake was a big leaguer, and he had an agent in LA, and he ended up introducing me to Jim. Jim's great, and he kind of met us in LA as like an intro, and like, hey, I think at that time I had signed, but I was meeting him for the first time when I flew out to LA because he was going to help us negotiate or at least get the contract signed. I'd already really negotiated it myself, but get out there, stay there a night, wake up the morning. We're like, hey, we're just going to go, me, my mom, my agent, going to go get a coffee before we head to the stadium.
Okay.
They call and say, hey, we still want you to come to the stadium and sign, but just to let you know, the guys, like the big people are going to be gone. They said they have a chance at getting Zach Lee to sign, so we're going to fly out. Ooh. Doesn't make my mom feel very good about the whole situation. So my mom is
it makes you feel a little bit insignificant
on your way, and
and
I personally didn't take it that way, but my mom did, and she's like, oh well, they clearly don't. They're not taking this serious. And at that time, we were like, all right, well, opportunity is everything, and money equals opportunity, which is true, still true to this day. And my mom was correct in that. So she's like, well, they're not taking this serious. Like, I think you go to college. I think we get back on a flight and go home. I'm barely 19 at this time. Not going to like disagree with my mom at that point in my life. Get on a flight, say, hey, we're good. We're not going to come sign. Not going to sign at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're flying home. And I'm like, the whole flight I'm just mad, just super upset. Like, I felt like I wanted to sign. My mom didn't, but my mom was like overshadowing my opinion on it, which felt weird. And now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, you're grown up. Like, you should be able to make that decision. I was 18 or 19, I can't exactly remember, but we get home and I'm just like in a bad mood. I'm just like, this is a bad decision. I got on my phone with my agent, Jim at the time. I was like, hey, do you think that there's a chance that they would still offer it, the signing? And because I was like, I really want to sign. I need to clearly get my parents on board here. And I went and had a conversation with my parents, and I was like, hey, I'm going to sign. Kind of a big moment for me in my life to like do something kind of against my parents' will a little bit. But I was like, I'm going to sign. You're either going to get on board with it or not. My mom's big thing is education. Both my parents are engineers, so they're like, education will get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
Which I agree with them. But I also saw this as like a one-time opportunity. Like, baseball is such a wild sport where you're like, you have to take advantage of your good years because they're not all going to be good.
You have a window.
And if like that's the part about junior college that's great is like you can put together one solid season, you can get drafted, get paid. And the system's changed now with NIL and all that stuff. But back then it was like, dude, you put yourself on the map 1 year. Do you really want to try to back that up next year?
Yeah.
Without the money and all that stuff. So I promised my mom I would get my college degree if I never made it to the big leagues. And she's like, okay. They drove a guy over from Chicago last signing day. I literally signed the paper. They sent it in with like an hour left. I don't know how hard that deadline is. But yeah, it was kind of a crazy ending to me signing. It was just a whirlwind of a summer. And then Next day I'm on a flight to Phoenix. So
Yep.
here. And I'm in 117-degree weather playing a day game.
Is that it's not extended spring?
It was at that point it was AZL League.
Okay, it was. It must have been the very beginning.
It was the very end of it.
Was?
It was the very end of it. It was
Okay, so now it's the ACL. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So it was the very end of it. And I played like 5 games, had a pretty good 5 games, and then went right into instructs. So I was like, here I am, like full on, this is my job. Felt okay with it because of the junior college stuff, but I was like, this is my job. But the next season's where it got pretty real for me.
Now, big decision you made, right? You went against your parents' will, so to speak, right? But they obviously
that's kind of true.
They obviously, respected your thoughts and opinions. But what was that like? From the time you sign to the time you get there, and then, now how it works is 2 installments. I don't know if it was 2 installments back then, but having that, hit your bank account as an 18, 19-year-old, was it just like, oh my gosh?
I think the one cool thing I was lucky enough to have is we had kind of a roadmap because of Ryan Sweeney.
Yeah.
And we were really close with the Sweeney family. We still are. But having Ryan go through the process and then like leaning on them after I signed was super helpful. Like Ryan found a financial advisor right away. Actually a guy we knew back in Cedar Rapids, and still use them. They're great. Love them to death. Actually the gentleman that I originally went with is retiring, so that's kind of cool. So we kind of had a roadmap on like, hey, they did the whole, like, we're going to get a P.O. box in Florida, save the taxes. I didn't do it.
Can't get away with that nowadays.
Yeah, you can't now, but you could back then. But I remember, like, getting my first installment. I'm like, holy, dude, they take a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
The taxes. I was like, it's my first experience. I never had a job. Like, I played sports, so I didn't have to get a job. And I got the first one, and I was like, whoa. And my dad's like, yeah, here we go. Like,
welcome to the real world.
Welcome to the real world. We had that conversation, and he's like, it's like the best thing you can ever do is not spend that money and just invest it. And went to my financial advisor. I gave him pretty much all of it. I bought a truck, and it's a truck I drove for 11 years. And honestly, I put my head down and just focused on baseball. Like that was the best thing that could ever happen to me. And I know that's not a popular thing, but it's not an easy thing to do at 19.
Yeah.
But I kind of had the guidance, so I was super lucky, super fortunate to have that guidance. But that was the best decision I ever made.
I think it's good to reward yourself anytime, like a significant, signing a professional baseball contract and getting the money. Like, you should reward yourself. It's just like, don't be an idiot.
Yeah, I definitely rewarded myself. I bought a really nice vehicle, and it was a vehicle I always wanted. And but I think the reason I got to the big leagues is focus. Like, I wanted it so bad that what my financial advisor told me, and they still tell me, is like, hey, like, just go play.
Yeah.
We'll take care of the rest, and don't check. And I know that's hard to do. And now that I'm older, I would check a lot more because I understand. I feel like I understand a little bit more, and I'm not playing anymore. Yeah. Honestly, probably didn't check it for like 6 years.
Yeah.
And that was I wasn't riding the wave of the market or anything like that, but I was so focused on baseball, and they allowed me to do that because if I checked in with them, they would be like, yeah, everything's great. Like, you're good. And don't necessarily recommend this for everybody, but like my family is very tight knit, and like my dad's been very successful, and he always like looked after that stuff for me. He always took care of the taxes, always did that stuff. And as I got older, he kind of taught me how the process of it. But I was super fortunate to have a dad that would do that. And now we're in business together now. So it's great. It's really cool. But yeah, I know that I was very fortunate and lucky to have that, because it's not everybody gets that.
No. Well, funny you mentioned forget the login, because there's an advisor I know, he makes a joke. He's like, you want to become a successful investor? He goes, there's one of 3 ways to do it. He's like, get your CFA, which is Certified Financial Analyst. I think the other one was like really study, blah, blah, blah. Or third, forget your login. And it's like it's a joke, right? But like
It's not though. I'm sure, there's so much more to it than like, I'm just saying as far as the customer.
yeah.
Lose it. Like,
Yep.
don't ride the wave. Like
Yeah.
it helped me.
Yeah.
I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, I don't think I logged in for 6 or 7 years.
Well,
and then
at the time you were drafting what year?
And I was like, oh, this is a lot more money than I put in.
What year did you start?
2010.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
If you look back at the markets.
Yeah, I mean, it was
timing's a lot of.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes too.
What I try to get across to younger athletes now, now that we can get into later on, get into what I'm doing now, but it's like that one paycheck can set you up for life.
Yeah,
it seriously can set you up for the rest of your life, and you can live a very comfortable life the rest of your life if you do the right things.
Well, and we actually never played against each other, we never crossed paths, but we both know of somebody or we probably had multiple other examples where you get that first rounder, right? And they get that huge dollar amount and they spend as if they're going to make it to the big leagues without, nobody has the crystal ball. And do those guys have more of an opportunity and a chance to make it? Yes, regardless if they're drafted, regardless if they have the tools or not. They're going to get more of a chance because they got the dollars invested in them. But it's like you can't assume that you're going to make it to the big leagues. Obviously, that's the goal, but it's like to plan that way is just idiotic. You're going to end up with nothing by the end of it. And if you're drafted out of high school, not only do you not have any money, but you have no education. So, take the time and it's like reward yourself, but just don't be an idiot. Buy the $50,000 car or $40,000 instead of the $100,000 car. And I always like to give $50,000 at 7% over 30 years. That's what this can do.
Yeah.
And that is more impactful.
Once you get it steamrolling, then it really gets steamrolling.
Yeah.
That's the rub is like, okay, can we just grind it out for 7 years?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I mean, that thing gets steamrolling and you're like, okay, we're in a different spot. We can have different conversations. That's the cool part is I'm having conversations financially now that I never thought in a million years I would be having.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I focused on finances.
Right.
I let somebody else do that for me and I trusted them and they've been great to me. And I was focusing on the things that was, first of all,
most important,
making me happy. I was passionate about, and it made good money in the end. Trust me, there was some roads in the minor leagues that I was losing money. I was losing a lot of money. I was going through my signing bonus, and I really don't know how guys that didn't get a signing bonus made it in some of these, and most of them didn't. But I mean, it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride for sure. Yeah.
Now let's go back. You sign, you go to Instructs. Give us the path to the big leagues here because, 26 rounder, right?
Yeah.
You got 300. It's not nothing.
Yeah.
But
it's not first round money. But
and you have the title of a 26 rounder, regardless if you're 5-tool player or not, right? So what was your path to the big leagues like, through the Dodgers organization? Because that's the team you initially, made it up to the big leagues. But what was that path like?
It was not a straight path, not it never is. But first year I went to Instructs, and then the next year kind of started, and I went to Ogden, Utah, and that was the first taste of out of AZL, which is AZL is its own thing, as you know. It's kind of you're playing a bunch of 16-year-olds, and it's okay, I can compete here. Now I'm going to Ogden, I'm playing college guys that are essentially what I was told is the guy that struck you out in the league before is in this league now. And then so on and so forth and so on and so forth is okay, the guy that you struggle with is moving on. The guy you didn't is staying. And then so as you go up, you're facing those guys more often. And obviously you're also sharpening your skills as well. But I remember my first week in Ogden. I mean, I just absolutely got the bat shoved up my, I mean, it was embarrassing. I was facing guys throwing 95 with sliders I'd never seen before. And I remember calling my dad. I mean, I may or may not have been crying. But I remember calling my dad. I was like, dude, I messed up. I should have just went to Wichita State. This was a huge mistake.
Because you're thinking at that time I would be a junior and,
No,
creating.
technically I would have been a
Oh
sophomore.
yeah, sophomore.
I would have
That's
been a
right. That's right.
sophomore
You're a
at
one and
that
done
point.
guy.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm 19 years old.
Yeah.
Pretty
So you're
much.
going through all those thought
I'm
processes.
going through this whole like, yo, you made a terrible decision, and it's like, I think without the guidance of, because I didn't really have anybody else to lean on. Like everybody else that you're playing against or playing with, they're kind of competition a little
They
bit
are.
to
I
a
mean,
certain point.
Right.
You know, you have buddies, but like it like every other outfielder. I mean, I was there with Jock and a couple other great outfielders as well, and then like they're competition. Like you can't like, I mean, yeah, you can lean on them a little bit, but at the end of the day, like they want to do better than you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I don't know if you watch like the F1 stuff where you have teammates.
Yeah.
But you always want to beat your teammate.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's kind of like that. I mean,
it's a good way.
That's
to put
probably
it.
kind of a selfish way to think about it. And at the end of the day, in the minor leagues, it's a way more selfish game than the big leagues. There's no doubt. I think the Dodgers system does a really nice job of like making it more about the team oriented, which is why it translates. And I say this to everybody who asks, like, if I didn't get drafted by the Dodgers, I would have never made it to the big leagues. Like the training, the mentoring, the coaching staffs. I mean, it was top notch. I learned if this will give you an insight into like how far ahead they are than everybody. In 2011, they told me the perfect game. This is 2011, and this probably didn't become like more mainstream like thought process in baseball till 2018, 2019.
I was going to say 2018, yeah.
They told me the perfect game is 1 for 3 with an extra base hit, a walk, and a strikeout.
Your perfect game.
My perfect game.
In your ideal game.
My ideal game. And they said, we don't really want you to have a 2-strike approach unless it's necessary, like a guy on third, 0 outs, 1 out, those kind of situations. Like get the job done, essentially, but you make it to the big leagues. And at the time I got drafted, it was Andre Ethier, Matt Kemp, and Manny Ramirez. Was the outfield in LA. Like, where am I going?
Yeah.
I had all the time in the world to focus on, like, just being good because I didn't have to worry about getting to the big leagues. Like, there was no room for me. So I could actually just sit there, and I feel like other organizations are different where they're checking up on the people in front of them because they're like, well, the outfield stinks in this organization. It wasn't like that with the Dodgers. It was more like, hey, let me just, like, focus on where I'm at and do the best I can, and maybe someday I'll get traded to a team that – I mean, when I first signed, I'm like, the chances of me getting to the big leagues with the Dodgers are very slim. Like, something serious needs to happen. Either I need to, like, really become a great player and some things fall the right way, or, like, I'm just – they're doing what they're still doing.
Kind of like the Tigers right now.
Yeah.
In some ways. Like, they got a good core group now, and then they have all these prospects because they were so bad for so long. So, like, your path through that organization is tough.
It's just a busy
It's an uphill
street.
battle.
It's a busy street.
And you're a 26th rounder with $300K, and I'm sure there's other prospects in the organization, not to mention those 3 guys you just mentioned in the big leagues.
The cool part, the part I enjoyed about the Dodgers as well is, like, through the processes, I was never a top prospect in the baseball world, but they treated me like I was a top prospect because I think they saw the skills I had, and they always involved me in all the big, like, meetings or camps because they're like, yeah, like you may be like, I think they always like the baseball world saw me as like an underdog, but the Dodgers never did. They kind of saw me as a front runner, and they treated me that way, which was cool.
From like the get go.
From the get go, from the get go. But yeah, so I called my dad. I'm like, hey, like this is a big mistake, and he just like kind of talked me off the ledge a little bit. He's like, hey, you need to like, if you're gonna do this, like you have to, because at that point I was homesick.
Yeah.
All my friends were in college, and I'm like, man, maybe I just come home and I can go play football. Maybe I play a year of football. I mean, I'm just thinking every thought in the book but playing baseball. Like, I was so over it after 5 games. And this, like, I think most people probably don't get into these stories, but, like, I just want to give a mindset of, like, an athlete and, like, the failure aspect of it. I mean, this is 5 games into my professional career, and I'm, like, trying to quit, essentially. And my dad's like, well – and I'm homesick, and he's like, hey, if you want to make a run at this, and I know you do because you've told me and I've seen you and you have the skill to do it, you have to forget about everybody else. What he meant by that is, like, forget about home. Forget about, like, calling us, doing all these things, like checking in. You need to be where you're at, be where your feet are, and, like, immerse yourself in baseball, and that's the only way you're going to get there. And that was the best advice he could have ever gave me. Granted, over time, like looking back, I'm like, oh, I didn't keep up with people as well as I should have because I was so like in the day-to-day stuff, but that's also how I got to where I got to.
You mean like friends and stuff?
Oh, friends.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm the worst at like keeping up with friends. Like I'm just awful at it because I've almost like ingrained myself to be where I am because that's the only way that I've taught myself that's the way I've become successful and to like focus that I didn't even like really I didn't even get that skill because phones were new at that time. So I didn't even get that skill of like checking in and calling people that weren't around just to check and have a conversation. Now doing what I do now, I'm like, oh, that would have been a nice skill to have.
Yeah.
And I'm honing that skill and getting better at it. But yeah, I mean, it was essentially like, hey, cut yourself off from any distractions. I don't want to call my family a distraction. They were support, but like it was a distraction as far as like, I'm homesick. I want to be at home.
Yeah.
Therefore, every conversation I say, oh, they're going to the lake, you know, like you got to sacrifice that you're not going to be at the lake to be at baseball. And I think cutting myself off from that was the best decision I ever made to get to the big leagues.
It's tough. I mean, it just comes with sacrifices, and that's where, you know, your goal was to make it to the big leagues. So, like, with that, it's going to come with missing family stuff. It's going to come with missing weddings. And I missed a bunch of stuff, and I didn't play for 12 years like you did, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it's just...
And it stinks. It doesn't make it any better, but it's like you have to be willing to make the sacrifice and do what you got to do to get to where you want to go.
And I watched plenty of guys that came out of high school that I could have told you within a couple months that they were just not going to make it mentally.
Yeah.
Mentally, they just weren't able to get over the hump that, thank goodness, my dad told me, like, hey, if you want to make it, like, this is something you have to do. It's a non-negotiable. Like, you have to be where you are and forget about everything else. And they weren't just, they had girlfriends at home or that were in college and they were up at 2 a.m. figuring out what they were doing. And it's just like that focus is completely, they may have been more talented than me, but I had a completely different mentality than a lot of the talented people that didn't make it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's a job and you're away from home and you're traveling at 20 years old and it's 3 games here, then 12-hour bus ride here. Like there's no freedom in it. The freedom is like being good at your job.
Yeah. And playing baseball, but yeah,
well, that's what I'm saying. Freedom of like that, playing what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Beyond that, outside of baseball, it's not like the best lifestyle. Like I don't really wish it on anybody, the lifestyle.
Freaking terrible.
It's terrible. It's awful. And I mean, especially it's better now in the minor leagues than it ever was because they unionized, but when we went through it, man, it was a grind.
I still don't watch a ton of TV. I'm not a huge movie guy, and I like the reason for that is like I watch enough movies and TV for like call it a 7-year window of my life that I'm good for like 20.
Well, I mean this is fast forwarding a bunch, but the reason, like, I had a aha moment when I retired of sitting in a hotel room, Albuquerque, New Mexico. At that time I was older. I was 32. I'm waking up earlier. Just I don't know if it's of age or whatever the frick it is, but I'm waking up at like 8 o'clock in the morning when I used to sleep till 12. And I'm just flipping through TV and I'm like, I'm 32 in AAA, and I'm about to spend 7 hours in a hotel to go have 4 terrible at bats. Because at that point in my career, I was so banged up that I knew the results were not going to be there. So I'm like, it felt like such a waste. Yeah. And that was like an aha moment, is like flipping in a hotel room in Albuquerque, like, dude, what are you doing with your life? And I think if I never got to that point, it would have been harder for me to move on. It would have been a lot harder for me to move on. I would have been like, well, I didn't leave every stone unturned. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So then, obviously, things got better for you.
Yeah.
After that conversation, probably started, hey, I just need to go all in on this. So then your path from there, what was that?
I mean, from then on, it was pretty upward trajectory. Ended up having a great season, Ogden. Had a mediocre year the next year in Midland, Michigan, but that was like a very good growth year because it was a full season instead of a half season.
Yep.
So that, like, figuring out like the whole grind of that and like how you prepare yourself for 120, 140 games. And then after that, it was all up. It was all up. I mean, the next year I won Player of the Year in the Dodgers system.
Were you in Double A that year?
That was in Rancho. That was High A.
Okay.
And then the next year, I was like runner-up MVP in the Southern League. And at that point, and I think it's probably still similar, if you can make it in AA, you're on a good path.
Well, and technically you're what? They always say you're a call away once you get to AA.
Yeah, and I had a massive year. Had one of my favorite hitting coaches of all time, Sean Wooten. It was just a fun summer. It was a great summer, great team. Like Razor Shines was my manager. Just like I said, it just seemed like everything was meshing. The coaching staff was great. Had like the best hitting coach I've ever had in Sean Wooten, and he's like, it was me and Seager and some of these other guys that were there. And at the time, I knew Seager was like in a league of his own, but like we were roommates, and it's just like the Dodger system was so good that you normalized how good people were.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're around it daily and you can like get used to it. And then you go to a different system, you're like, oh, that wasn't normal. Like those guys are just different.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. So after that, it was pretty much, it felt like destined to get there. It was just like win.
Matter of time.
It was just a win. It was when the opportunity was going to come up. Because at that point, I don't think the Dodgers were even considering trading me. Because I won minor league player of the year.
And then backed it up with AA.
I was
MVP
I was
or whatever.
MVP, pretty much second in MVP Southern League. And then I went to Oklahoma City. And then the Dodgers essentially overhauled the whole system that year. So 2015, I'm in AAA. Kind of funny story on how I got called up, because call-up stories are always usually kind of messed up. I'm in Oklahoma City. I'm having a terrible start to the season. Like, I'm 2 months in, because it was June. Yeah, my mom actually just texted me on the way here. It's 10 years ago I had my debut. Today. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so so I'm having a terrible season.
I just said you had 12 years in professional baseball, so that's wrong.
What?
I thought you – so how many years in totality? Technically. No, that's right. So it is.
Debuted in the big leagues. 2015.
Got it. So
10 years since I debuted in the big leagues.
That's cool.
So Oklahoma City, I'm having a terrible season. I'm with a couple roommates of mine. We're staying in an apartment, and we're doing what we normally do after a game, just playing cards, messing around. At that point, it was like almost hit the reset button for me, which I probably don't need to get into what a reset button is. But, we're at our place. I don't even have my phone anywhere near me, of course. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. We're playing cards, and just it's not even in a thought in my mind that they're going to call me up. I go find my phone. I have like 37 missed calls from my manager. I'm like, oh, I probably should give him a call, right? And I called him. He's like, hey, you're about.
And at that time of night.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, you're about 5 minutes away from me calling somebody else. He's like, hey, just let you know, going to the big leagues tomorrow. He had said a bunch of other stuff, and it's hard. Like at that point, it was almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, didn't have many people to call. So it was like,
because 2 o'clock, you're on West Coast, right?
No, I was on Central Time because I was in Oklahoma City.
Got it. Okay, see, that's right.
And I was like, they were like, hey, you're catching the 6 a.m. flight.
Like 3 a.m.
You're catching your 6 a.m. flight out to LA. So like, I can't even call my parents. Like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I can call them, but like the chances.
And you're on a 6 a.m. flight?
6 a.m. flight, yeah.
And so you're not going to be able to really. You maybe send a text or something.
I didn't even sleep. So yeah, it was.
Or did you send them a text?
I think I sent them a text. I think I tried to call. They didn't answer, which makes sense. And then I texted them. They ended up missing my debut. And the funny thing is, I was up for one game, and then got sent back down because Puig was hurt. Or there's some reason they sent me up. At the end of the day, I think it was they were trying to give me a confidence boost by calling me up because I was already on the 40-man. So they were like, hey, who can we like bring up for a day to give confidence to? And I think I was that candidate for them because they're like, hey, we see you as a big league player, not having a great start to your season. Let's give them a little confidence boost. So they did, and it worked. So you
were up there one day?
One day. So I actually met my family in the airport on my way out.
Oh, because they showed up thinking that you're going to be up there the next day.
Yeah, so I met them in the airport. Yeah, so on my way out. So nobody was at my debut, but it was probably one of the most surreal debuts you could ever ask for. It's a Friday night, Dodger Stadium, 60,000 people. A.J. Ellis like pulls me aside. He was catcher at the time, and I think Kershaw was on the mound. I'm playing defense behind Kershaw. That means it's gonna be a low scoring game. I can't make any mess ups. Like all those thoughts are going through your brain. You're like, all right, like it's not like I'm not saying you treat everybody the same effort-wise, but
Yeah.
you have that like, oh, it's Kershaw on the mound. It's in the back of
he's
your
a
mind like,
Dodgers
okay, I
legend.
may need to do something extra here.
Yeah.
Or be asked to do something. Playing the Cardinals, Carlos Martinez is on the mound.
So this is after you got you got sent back down and then you got recalled.
No. This is my debut.
Okay.
Going to my debut. My parents weren't there. I kind of.
So your very first game, you did get in. You started.
Oh yeah, I started.
Okay.
I started the game. Started and left.
So after you got
Kershaw's
sent
on the
down,
mound.
that
This
game.
is when the Cardinals were really good.
Got it.
2015, they were really good. We ended up losing the game, I think 2-1 on 2 sack flies or something like that. But AJ Ellis pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, don't look up." Yeah. He's like, "Don't look up." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "There's a third row in Dodger Stadium, and it's very steep, and it like visually will really throw you off." And he's like, "Honestly, if you look up, it'll kind of all hit at once." And he was right. But he said if you ever have a moment like that, he's like, it's a little he's like, just start counting your breaths or start listening to your breath if you can. And like, that's how you slow yourself down in those moments. Cause he was just a great mentor. Like he really pulled me aside and told me all this stuff before the game. Super helpful. Like I'm like my first fly ball, it's me and Jock's in center, and the first ball goes up, and it's of course to the left of me, to the right of him. So
always finds a new guy.
Yeah, always finds a new guy, and it's like one of those colliding things. I can't hear a word.
No.
I'd played in stadiums, but not 60,000 people. I can't hear anything. Jock, like I thought I heard him call it. He didn't call it, and I'm like, we're like kind of looking at each other. I was able to adjust and make the play, but it was like, oh, like. Yeah, it was just like one of those like, oh, this could go so bad. Now I understand like how this stuff happens. Like you watch a big league game and you're like, oh, how did that drop? Like, I don't know. It was just a really cool moment.
Because probably at the time you probably played in front of a decent crowd in AAA or AA, but probably nothing more than, what would you say, 20?
I wouldn't even say 20. I'd say 12 maybe. And they don't really have outfield seats in the minor leagues very many
15
places.
to 60,000
is huge. And then you got to think 10 to 15 of those are behind you now. Whereas before, you're really not used to people behind you in the outfield. In the minor leagues.
You don't ever think about that.
A little bit, but not like if you're in the outfield.
You might have the little 5 rows.
Yeah, you might have a little grassy area where like 50 people
I didn't even think about that.
You're not used to crowd noise behind you.
That's interesting. I've never heard somebody talk about that, and you don't really think about it,
You don't think about it till it's a thing, and you're just like, oh. And the good part about like 60,000 people is you can't single out any voice.
It's all just
white
noise,
big white noise. That's the nice part. It's so much better. I mean, it's better in general, of course, to be in big leagues, but those games, those rainy games where everybody's left and there's just one fan and you can hear everything they're saying. I don't know why those cut deeper for some reason. When it was one person, you could hear it during your at bat. I'm like, first of all, why am I focusing on this? But it's hard when it's one person yelling.
Anybody that says they can't hear it is full of it.
Full of crap.
I play with guys that are like, oh, I don't hear it. I'm like, yeah, you do.
You hear it. You hear it, especially in those scenarios where like the big leagues is a little different when you get. I mean, when I went to Cincinnati, it was a little different because the crowds aren't as big, so you can hear a little more. But once you get over 30, 40,000 people, it's all noise.
Yeah.
You can't single anything out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the crowd noise behind was different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So who was your first at bat against?
Carlos Martinez.
Yeah,
the Reds or the Cardinals.
And what was that first at bat like? Was it? What was your mindset? Just like, going to treat this no different, or what was your thought heading into that bat?
So I had been told that, and it actually kind of was true, because the scouting reports weren't as good in the minor leagues to the major leagues like it is now.
Yeah,
where
like
you have like they have this whole thing on you, this book on you when you get to the big leagues, so they know how to pitch you. So like. Old school was like, hey, they're going to groove you a fastball your first at bat, and if you hit it, then they'll adjust. If you don't hit it, they won't adjust. They're essentially going to challenge you till it was so true. Fastball 96 mile an hour away, hit a single to left field, first pitch.
First pitch, saw.
Got it over with, done with. Next at bat, completely different at bat. Struck out on 3 pitches, like nasty stuff. So like, and for some reason, the way Yachty the way he approaches, like I've always hit really well against the Cardinals. I don't know if I just like the way he sequences works well with me, or something like that. But every time Yachty's behind the plate, I've always had a good game. There's sparingly because we played the Cardinals a bunch.
I wonder how many other big leaguers can see it.
I don't know. It was one of those. I have to be like well over like a 330 hitter against Yachty.
That'd be an interesting stat. I wonder if they keep track of that.
I don't know. That's actually a good question. I mean, it's got to be a pretty big statistic when Yachty's behind the plate.
Interesting.
And I don't know if it's just like I think Yachty's, and I don't like. First of all, I'm not speaking for Yachty or like. But for me, I felt like his comfort zone and what I always knew he would go to is he's going to challenge you. And the Cardinals' philosophy, I felt like at that time with a big field at Busch was like, if we're going to challenge you, we're going to challenge you away where you can't hurt us for a home run.
Sure.
Which worked really well for my skill set is like fastball away. Yeah. I was a fastball hitter, and I had no issues going the other way. And it was easier for me to extend my hands away than it was in. So for some reason, it just meshed really well with my game plan and his game plan.
Yeah.
So, but that's not true for everybody with Yachty. Yeah. That's kind of a cool little token I can hold on to.
Heck yeah. I would take that one to the bank. So you got sent down, got brought back up at some point. Was it that year you got traded to Cincy, or was it the following offseason? Like when did that happen?
Off-season. So off-season of 15 going into 16, they, like I said, they changed they changed everything when the Dodgers system, like they got the Tampa Bay GM. It's Friedman, right? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. He came over. They pretty much overhauled the entire minor league system, coaching staff-wise, new philosophy, everything. I fit the mold. I just think that they wanted to make their impact and make the trades they wanted to do. And I was traded I don't remember, November of that year.
Yeah.
To the Reds. And honestly, I was pretty upset about it because came up with the Dodgers. I felt super loyal to them. I felt like I was just breaking into the big leagues with them. I had a pretty good little stint with them in September. But I mean, they had stars everywhere. Like, it just was one of those things, like, if you're doing the math, it just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And so, like, at the core of it, it was a really good move for me to get traded. But I definitely was like, man, this is all I know. All my buddies. I got to the big leagues with my buddies. Like, it would be cool to, like, kind of continue that journey. It felt like it got cut off a little short on my end. But the Reds was by far the best opportunity for me to actually make a big league career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it take you some time to realize that? Or is it like once the dust settled down, you're like, okay, like the pathway here and to stay there is better than with the Dodgers?
It definitely took some time.
Yeah.
I definitely felt slighted for a little bit. I was like, oh, well, they see this guy. You know, it's a natural comparison thing. It's like, okay, well, they think this guy's better than you. And then you think about who got traded for, and it's just a natural progression of like emotions of like, okay, like where does it's almost like a reevaluation of where you're at. And once I got over that, I was fine. But I struggled when I first got to the Reds because I was like, it's like going to a new school, man. Like you play against them, but like you don't know what it's like in the locker room. And I felt like I was going from like one of the best systems, and I just didn't know what I was getting into with the Reds. And yeah, it was an interesting experience, like just going to a different team.
Yeah.
But I knew eventually, like most people don't stay with the team throughout. Like I knew that pretty early on. At some point, I just felt like where I was at and the trajectory I had the 3 previous years, I was like, oh, I'll be a Dodger at least for a couple years in the big leagues before the value's there to, you know. I felt like I had gained that respect with them, but then they completely overhauled the philosophy essentially, and then new GM, new all that.
Yeah. So then I'm sure a whole different feel. You get to spring training, you're in Goodyear, different fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's a different experience, but obviously the pathway and to stay up there was a bit better for you, in a better situation for you. So talk to me about your experience with the Reds and, you know, your pathway to the big leagues there and what your experience was like with the organization.
Yeah. I mean, my initial stuff with the Reds was great. You know, Jay Bruce was probably one of my favorite teammates of all time. Ended up replacing him, which is kind of weird. Later on down the line, I ended up being his replacement when he got traded away to the Mets. But he was just like him and Votto. It was just a good vibe because they were good. They were.
That was in their prime of their careers,
They were in their
right?
prime, and they were just starting to like get out of it and start the rebuild. So they traded away Todd Frazier in the deal that I went over on, and that was kind of like the first thing that fell. Jay Bruce ended up going. Votto was pretty much the last core guy hanging on. I mean, they had Mesoraco there. Brandon Phillips was there. He ended up getting, I don't remember.
Joey Bats.
Yeah.
Forgot.
Yeah. So I think I just went at a good time, but also like a kind of a crazy time where you go from a very organized system to maybe a little more chaotic. I don't want to speak too poorly on
from the standpoint of like all the changes.
There's so many changes happening. You
Players
don't really,
leaving.
yeah. It's like
Franchise players
leaving. Fan base is kind of, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I got booed. Like when Jay Bruce got traded and I played in right field, and I got booed by our own fans, and rightfully so. Like Jay Bruce was like the guy. Don't get me wrong, but it's like it's kind of odd. It's kind of odd to be like, oh well, yeah, I already have these big shoes to fill, but then I'm getting booed by my own fans. So that's, I mean, it's just there's a lot of different like emotions that go along with that, and not being super comfortable in the clubhouse yet, and getting used to the guys. And there's a lot of people that were traded in, like Suarez was traded there pretty much the half year before I got there. So there's essentially a bunch of different players from different teams getting traded in, and you have to figure out how to mesh. And
it's a big part of baseball. It's underlooked.
It's not as easy,
overlooked.
And that's as crazy and how big of a team sport baseball is. Like plussing and minusing one person can make a huge difference in a clubhouse.
Drastic difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I know that's not a lot of people on the outside know that, but like adding or subtracting one player from a team can completely change the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an experience to be like going through all the social stuff while still trying to perform.
Yeah, from the standpoint of getting to know your teammates
Getting to know your teammates, trying to figure out like where you fit in. I mean, yeah, it's similar like going to a new school. Like you don't know if like you're going to mesh with the guys. You don't know if you have the same, same hobbies. Like are they? I had come up with the Dodgers. I was with a bunch of guys that I got to the big leagues with. It felt like a great situation, and it was ripped.
Yeah.
And so I had that kind of going as well, and it was like a little bit of like, oh, like still kind of, how when you go to a new school, you still talk to your old friends?
Sure.
Same thing.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm still like talking with a lot of the guys in LA, and they're telling me how things are in LA, and I'm over here, and maybe I'm not having as good a time. We're definitely not winning at that time. But yeah, it was, I don't know. I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but I don't think I really fit in too well with the Reds, honestly.
Personality-wise?
Personality-wise, yeah. Personality-wise.
Just like you're more laid back, or you're like you fit the West Coast lifestyle, because you're from Iowa, right? It's like Midwest.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's hard to like, I love my teammates that I had there. It was just I just never felt like I super belonged on the team. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever figured that out, and maybe that's just emotions from like getting traded or something like that. But it just felt like I never really fit in.
Did you?
I've actually had other teammates I talked to that were in those clubhouses say the same thing. Not about me, but that they didn't fit in either.
I mean, some of it has to do with all the new faces.
I'm sure, yeah.
In the ideal world, you all come up at the same time, and then you're all in the big leagues at the same time. You all get paid. It doesn't work out that way, right? Guys get injured, guys get traded, but when you have an organization that's going through so much change, got a lot of different personalities.
It felt when I got to Cincinnati, it went from like very team oriented in LA to I'm going to get mine
and get out of here. Yeah, that makes sense.
It wasn't like a whole lot of. I mean, it definitely felt a little different in the clubhouse.
Yeah,
but a lot of that, I mean. A lot of rightfully so, because they were trading away guys that were clubhouse like legends that like kept everybody together.
Yeah.
Like Jay Bruce was the glue, and when he left, the entire clubhouse changed. Like he was the glue that kept everything together. He was the guy that's like, hey, we're on the road. We're going to dinner and you're going. We're having a team dinner. Like he was the guy that got that going. And when that left, we kind of had a little bit of a void where it got a little clicky, I think. Yeah.
And I remember asking you, specifically about, hey, how's it? Because I'm so curious. Joey Votto seems like such an obscure, different guy publicly. I'm like, how was he as a teammate? But talk to, a little bit about, because I believe you're either hitting in front of him or behind him, during some of those years and what that experience was like.
Yeah, I mean, he's unbelievable. Great teammate as well. He just wasn't as vocal as Jay. Like he wasn't gonna get the dinner. Not saying he didn't do it, but it wasn't. I don't think it came as naturally to him as it did to Jay.
Yeah.
So that's where and him and Jay Bruce were tight, like extremely close. They came through the system together, and I think that hurt him as well. I don't want to speak for him, but I think that them essentially trading away his best friend, like that hurts too, especially if you're a franchise guy. But I mean, me and Votto had a lot of great conversations. Great clubhouse guy. Honestly, probably one of my favorite conversations. Just having a conversation with him, you don't know exactly where the conversation is going to go, but you always end up leaving there with a really good feeling and kind of just you're like, man, that was such an interesting conversation.
Like baseball and non-baseball,
everything. He is extremely smart, just very, very intelligent. And then that obviously it translates into baseball. Like him and Seager are probably some of the most body aware people I've ever played with.
Yeah.
He would talk about wrist tension. If you can think about trying to he would talk about things like that where I'm like, I don't know where my wrists are. I'm kind of a football player playing baseball. I'm just trying to outpower people. And he was very my setup needs to be this and very thoughtful on everything. But he was able to make the adjustments because his body awareness was unmatched.
Okay.
He could put himself how somebody tells you to go do something and then you try to do it, but you look at it on camera and you're like, oh, that's not what was actually asked. Those two guys, you tell them to do something in the box, they can make that adjustment within seconds and it will look exactly how they're like, oh, well, I need my wrist to be back a little further with a little more tension, or I need my front hip to move, but I need my front hip to be a little more closed, but without moving my back hip. Those little adjustments, I would do it, and my whole setup would be different because I would try to do something, and
you're probably thinking
seven other things
Yeah.
would move at the same time. They could make those minuscule things that would set them up right without changing anything else. That's what I'm saying. Their body awareness, they could move one body piece without the other body pieces moving, and the longer I played, I realized how important that skill is for baseball because the adjustments and the game of inches, and it's less than inches, it's a game of millimeters. But yeah, I mean, him and Seager are probably the best guys I ever played around when it came to those skills. It was unmatched.
And you're like, I'm just trying to get a fastball over the
yeah,
plate
I'm
and
just
do damage.
my approach is very simple. I know this changed throughout my career as I got injured, but I played at the perfect time for me because I was a fastball hitter and for a left-handed hitter, crushed pitches up in the zone, which is unheard of for lefties. Lefties are usually uppercut.
Down and in.
I was the opposite.
Yep.
You throw me fastballs up, I would torch you. So my game translated really well to the big leagues because of that. And the game was heading that direction of four-seamers up in the zone. And it just translated well for my game. They're going to challenge you. They're going to try to throw 100, but they're going to try to throw at the top of the zone. Granted, trust me, I swung and missed at things at my eyes. It happens. But you have to realize, I was taught early on that you stick to a game plan and, I'm up here to do damage. And, I never wavered. And I knew that, over the course of X amount of at-bats, it was going to play to my favor.
Yeah. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero was a free swinger.
Yeah.
It worked out okay for him.
Seager's a free swinger.
Yeah.
He swings the first pitch almost every at-bat, and the reason is because he wants to find his timing.
It's hard to argue.
The worst thing, I probably shouldn't say this because he's still playing, but I don't want to give away his secrets.
Fair enough. But you had some good years up in the big leagues. I mean, one year you had the 30 bombs, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
What seemed to, was it just more or less you felt like you're finally getting that opportunity more or less than things were clicking?
Yeah.
Do you feel like more or
Well,
less?
2016, I make the opening day roster. I think I had 3 walk-off hits in the first 10 games, and then I tanked because I went playing every day. Me and Duvall were kind of playing, piggybacking the lefties on the mound. The funny thing is I was a reverse split guy. I always hit better average-wise off lefties than righties, but I always hit power better off righties. So I wasn't playing every day, which I had never done before in my career. Yeah. So I struggled. They sent me down to the minor leagues in 2016, and I just went on a tear. I went on like a 2-month tear where it was just like, yo.
Were you pretty upset at that time, or were you like, it's justifiable? Or were you
I felt like at that point in my career, I was like, I know if you give me the chance, like I'll be fine. So it was more of like, I wasn't mad about getting sent down because I knew I could play every day.
Yeah.
And I would rather have been an everyday guy in the big leagues and now looking back, I'm like, well, I could have made more service time. I mean, looking back, but I think the cool part about my career that maybe not everybody gets to say is like, I was an everyday starter. When I was never like a bench guy. I was always an everyday starter when I was in the big leagues, which is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
A lot of guys get up there and they're kind of in and out, like they're pinch hitting, and pinch hitting is kind of gone with the DH. But at that time, pinch hitting was a big deal, and like being an everyday starter was a different
National League for sure.
Yeah, it's a different gig. Like they're giving you the full reins, and that's a cool part about it. Is like I got to go down. Then they traded Dre Bruce to the Mets, and that opened the door. They were like, all right, we're full rebuild mode. Brian Price came to me and he's like, hey, it's yours. It's your spot. Like, if you go 0 for 50, you're still going to play every day. Like, I'll give you a break every once in a while if you struggle. But he gave me the leash to just completely go bonkers. And I used all of it because I literally hit a walk-off home run my first game back in 2016. And then I went on like a 1 for 37 streak, and they played me the entire time. And once I like got out of it, I ended up having a pretty solid year.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like they're riding with me. Like to ride through a 1 through 37 with a rookie, I mean that was the most confidence boost you could ever gotten.
Yeah.
So,
are walk-off hits and or home runs your favorite memories of your baseball career?
Yeah.
Because it's depending on how many people are there, right? Like it's got to be a pretty fun experience.
There's nothing better. I mean, it's kind of funny because you usually black out, and there's really not a whole lot of like
happens so quick.
Yeah, it happens so fast, and you like when you square a ball up. Is that camera gonna die?
No, it's fine.
When you square a ball up and you do it right, like it's almost a blackout moment. Like it's just like
it's
immediate. Like everything kind of just like it tingle. I don't know. It's a weird feeling that like. I don't think you really get outside of baseball, but like when you hit a walk-off and you know you hit one, it's just like there's not much I remember about rounding the bases. And most guys don't remember much when they do that, when they have those moments. But I don't know. I always say you kind of black out a little bit. You're like there's almost so much like stimulus that
do you hear like any noise
nothing.
When like it's
you don't feel
like
you don't feel anything and
yeah.
you don't hear anything.
It's so weird.
It's like all this focus. It's just like this extreme focus that.
Do you think it's because it's that loud? Like how many people were there roughly? You know, like
I don't know, probably 30,000+.
Yeah, that's a decent chunk.
Yeah, it's a good crowd. I mean, yeah, it's just you don't like.
I've been at one. The only reason I bring that up, I've been in one place. It was actually when I was there when Ichiro broke the single season hit record in Seattle, and I was screaming, but I couldn't hear anything because it was so loud. I wonder if there's a certain decibel level. Yeah. Obviously, you're in the moment too, but like if there's a certain level of like noise.
Well, I do feel like you go from like you're already focused on the pitch, so you're already like lasered in, and it's just an extension of that.
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, I don't really remember rounding the bases. I really don't.
That's wild.
I don't remember like jumping into home.
Yeah.
But I watch it back.
Yeah.
It's weird you watch it back and you're trying to feel that emotion again, and it's just like.
And then you're getting interviewed on the field, and they're trying to ask you, walk us through that bat, and you're like, I saw the ball up.
It's like it's kind of hard to explain. It always. I mean, getting interviewed like. In those moments, you're like, just don't say something stupid because like you're not thinking about anything. You're not thinking about anything besides what happened, and you kind of go back to your core self as far as like you're not thinking like, hey, I need to be politically correct. I need to be like no cussing, no like it just.
Yeah, you got adrenaline.
Like I'm not saying like you think those thoughts, but I'm just saying like those are like some of those moments where you're like golfers say it now, like, give me 10 minutes after my round at least. Because if you go to the podium pissed off, you're going to say something that you regret. And it's like, that's human nature. When people are mad, they say stupid stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like,
people say stupid stuff without being mad.
That's what I'm saying, but it's going to get worse. And it's like, yeah, do they actually mean those things? No, it's just, but we hold athletes to this like uber standard of like, they're still humans, you know? Like they still have the same everything that you have.
Yeah. Now, you had some really great years, and then towards the tail end of your career, was it shoulder or what?
Yeah, shoulder. So everything, my whole career changed in 2017. Which is actually funny because it was probably one of my better years. Dove for a ball in a day game. It was against Atlanta. And I think it was Nick Markakis. He's been a thorn in my side my whole career. And he's a lovely guy too. He's awesome. He's just a great guy. It's just kind of funny how like just how your careers end up cross paths and merge and all these little things. And but yeah, dove for a ball and just my whole left shoulder popped. It was about halfway through the year. At that point, I was leading the league in home runs.
It was after the year you had 30, yeah?
No, this was the year I had 30.
Okay.
So I had like,
I didn't know.
I had like 16 home runs by the end of May.
Wow.
I was leading the league, and I think it was early June. Dove for a ball, whole shoulder pop. My whole arm went numb. I pretty much got walked off the field. And that was, I mean, if I look back and I can single out one thing that changed my career, that's it. And that's what I try to tell athletes. It's like, yeah, man, you're one moment away. Like, it sucks. It sucks that that's how easy it is to lose something you love, like as far as like baseball, but it's true. It's like, it literally, I can wrap it up into one diving moment in a game that really didn't mean a whole lot in the regular season that completely shifted my career.
Wow. Well, so you did that at the end of May, or was it May or June?
Yeah, it was early June.
But you still ended up playing through it, right? So you didn't get surgery initially because you ended up because I was assuming that was the year after you hit 30. So you ended up staying up there and fighting through some of that?
This is where I was naive and just dumb. And this is the football mentality that I try to actually steer, because like I feel like the generation that like my parents were in are very, like, they taught me toughness, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I think they were right on that, but I think there's obviously some stuff you don't want to tough through. Like, and I was never taught that. I was like, hey, first of all, don't give anybody an opportunity to play behind you. You know, don't be the Ted Williams guy who's the guy who lost his job to like a really famous player. I can't remember.
Well, like Tom Brady is a good example, right? You're not supposed to lose your job due to an injury.
Yeah. Kind of what it was like. I always had that in the back of my mind. And first of all, I was like, if you can play, play. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how deep I probably should get into this, but I went off the field that day. My mom told me to this day, she knew that was it. Like, my career was never going to be the same after that play. It was just such a gnarly play, and it pretty much, my whole labrum was gone. But like they do in the big leagues, it's like if you're worthless to them if you're not on the field. And I didn't want to not be on the field, so I never fought them on that. So
like after the game, you get an MRI, like
no,
they didn't do anything.
Doctor sees me. I have somewhat strength in it. He's like, "Oh, get him some medication. He'll be fine." I'm out there playing 5 days later.
Not one MRI just to say like probably nothing, but like let's just get him a scan to.
No, nothing. I didn't push the issue. That's my fault. Yeah. My fault. I mean, I lost out on a lot. I mean, not that everything is dollar and cents, but I lost out on a lot of money and a lot of service time because of this, because of how dumb I was. So that's why I tell my story to give other athletes
because you think if
information.
At that point, what would have been in your best interest is
I was leading the league in home runs. I need to this is a contract. Like, if I can put it together a full year like this, I mean, this is these are where you get contract extensions. These are the kind of seasons you
weren't at the end of your rookie deal quite yet. You're
Yeah,
probably
but
a year or
like
two. But
Suarez had just signed a long-term
Yeah.
extension. Like we were in a rebuild. Like it would have
Yeah.
made sense if I put together a good year. Hey, here's 5 years, 40
yeah.
million. Like
yeah.
I know those conversations were in the works. I obviously never got to that point, but I know those were like being had.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was out there 5 days later. Just hopped up on medication,
And you had a fully torn labrum. And when did you find that out?
I didn't fully find that out till 2019,
That was when did that happen?
2017.
Okay, that's what I was like. I
Yeah,
was trying to make sure that I heard that correctly.
It's a whole thing, yeah. So
Wow.
I went to All-Star break,
Wow.
and I'm like, all right, I should be able to rest it, my shoulder. Maybe, like at this point, the doctor had told me I'm fine. We hadn't had any images yet, but the doctor told me I'm fine. I just need a rest. That's all I'm thinking.
Throwing arm or non-throwing arm?
Non-throwing, but my back arm and my hitting.
Yeah, your
And
power.
you got to think I do well on high pitches,
Yeah.
which is super important for high pitches. I don't know how much into the weeds you want to get here,
Yeah.
but I don't know how much time we have. But yeah, so essentially went to All-Star break, tried to rest it, came back, went on a 150 streak. My shoulder was just gone.
Yeah.
So I asked for imaging. I'm like, hey, like something's
2019?
No, this is 2017.
2017. Okay.
I'm like, hey, something's wrong. Like I'm not performing. I've never had this issue. I'd really never had an injury, like a serious injury to this. Got imaging. Team doc told me that it was just a very minor slap tear. Gave me a cortisone shot that day. Went back, cortisone shot, hit. Well, it was great. Ended up hitting 30 homers that year on like 420 at-bats or something like that.
Which
So
is crazy because you had 16 at the end of May.
Yeah, I missed.
You still ended up,
Yeah, I hit 30 with like, it was less than like 450 at-bats, which is,
Yeah.
I mean,
Usually
normally
you
a
get
big
like
league,
600?
normally you're 650.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I was doing it.
Yep.
And, I mean, I had a month and a half off. Rehab it pretty much all the off season. Have a pretty good 2018, but I'm getting cortisone shots in my shoulder this entire
Constantly.
time. Constantly.
How often?
I mean, they wear off a lot faster. So, I mean, yeah, probably, I don't know. I mean, and then I messed up my other shoulder in 2018. Moral of the story is you start compensating. Start doing stuff differently.
Which then impacts your other parts of your body.
Yeah, ends up hurting other parts of your body. So I kind of battled through it with the cortisone through 2018. 2019 came around, cortisone was not working anymore. Mind you, I was told that I was fine, like nothing's wrong. So I'm battling through at the beginning. I had won the starting day job in center field in 2019. Started I was brutal, just brutal. I mean, I think I hit like 140 for the first month.
Did you have surgery throughout any of this? Like
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But
So
there was
essentially, and this is not, I don't want it to be like a boo-hoo story for me. I tell the story to tell other athletes, like to be aware that not everybody has your best interests. That is the main core of my message, is to have people who are naive like me to take the extra step, to do the due diligence yourself, to do all these things, to have those conversations within yourself of like, am I actually right? Or is what is being told to me correct or not correct? Because you have to have your own best interest. I thought I trust the team doc. Like he would never lie to me. I'll leave it at that. But essentially, if they sent me down in 2019, I didn't even know I had options left because I had been in the big leagues for like 5 straight years. And what the dumbest thing I ever did was take the assignment. I probably should have said, because I ended up being terrible in 2019, and finally got smart and wised up and went and got an MRI from somebody else. Found out that there was no shoulder there essentially. Got surgery.
They're probably like, how are you even playing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Had surgery. Then COVID was the next year. And then I was never the same. Shoulder surgery is a very complicated surgery. But yeah, it was me living off of the last 4 years of my career were me living off my previous success. Because I was pretty worthless as a baseball player. And honestly, I wasn't even a good teammate. I was a kind of a salty guy at that point. So I do apologize to a lot of my teammates at the end of my career, especially like with Colorado. I had some amazing coaches like Jordan Pacheco, like a guy I ended up coaching me that I played with. Like, I felt like it was time to move on from the game. It was doing nothing good for me mentally to keep hitting my head against the wall every day.
Yeah. Do you think, obviously, there's always moments in our life where we wish we could have a do-over, and we all say I wouldn't change a thing. But so in 2017, had you just gone on the DL, they found out you got a full labrum tear, and you get the surgery, do you think things change, or do you still think the shoulder – because the labrum is such a –
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily changes anything.
Yeah.
But it changes the trajectory of, like, my service time and money. And it doesn't there's no compensation as much anymore, and there might not be the other injuries I ended up with as well.
Because having not doing that, they were kind of they sent you down, which obviously hurts your service time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because when came from the Dodgers, and these big league staffs, are the best of the best.
Yep.
Right.
That's the way you're told.
And the guys in the minors are pretty dang good too. Like once you get to AA, AAA, or even high A, they're pretty solid too. They've been doing it for a certain amount of time. So it's like you have that blind trust because they're the best of the best. But yeah, it's
yeah, I mean, it's just at the end of the day, I don't really blame the Reds. I mean, I'm upset about it, that it was told to be that way, even though they knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
I blame myself for not having the awareness to go and figure it out myself.
That's tough, though,
It's tough because you want to believe the best.
Because it's like a blend of, like, kind of who you are is, like, grind it out. You're a JUCO guy, and, like, you're going to push through. And then you're also like, I trust these guys. They have my best interest.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a learning. That's probably the only reason I tell it. It's just to give guidance to younger generation, to be like, hey, you are your best advocate. You are the one, like, if somebody tells you that you're wrong about the way you're feeling, like, maybe keep researching, keep finding out. I'm more on that end of it now, of like advocating for future people than like pity me kind of deal. I had a great run. I had an unbelievable run. I did some things that people that play baseball will never be able to witness, because I got to that level and I worked hard to get there, and I sacrificed a lot, but I have no like ill will towards baseball.
Yeah. And that's something that would be a really good story to share with like the Players Association too, because it's like I understand the Players Association is there to protect the players, but there's also a conversation that's had, behind closed doors, where they don't want guys to sign before the end of their rookie deal, because you look at Acuna and some of these other guys where they take these deals, right? And it's like they probably could be getting a lot more.
Yeah.
But in the case like, yourself or many others where, okay, let's say the Reds approached you before, you probably would have signed something.
I would have signed it in a heartbeat.
But what happens is, especially now with some of these organizations, is that they will squeeze every ounce of that rookie deal left. And if they have to go year to year through arbitration, they're happy to do so. But a lot of these guys never end up – the toughest thing is to get that one payday, you're in
it for the one payday,
and
honestly.
Then it's – you look at – there's so many instances. Like Evan White is somebody that comes to mind. He signed an extension after 1 year in the big leagues in 2020. And I don't know if he's been back up since. And he's on – I think he's getting paid like $7 or $8 or $9 million this year.
I actually got to meet him. He's a great guy. That being said, I think it can be frustrating for somebody like me,
no doubt,
who had a I don't want to be a dick, but like a better carear statistically, and didn't get paid nearly as much.
I think he hit 168 that year,
and didn't get paid essentially. And that what you need to take out of his life's not fair. And like I think that's a core message that needs to come across too. Is like, hey, life's like, I mean, what I do now, I talk with athletes all the time that should have probably got drafted but didn't. And I'm just like trying to understand, like a lot of stars aligned for me to get to where I am. I mean, a lot of hard work too, but there's still a lot of things that had to line up correctly for me to get to where I am. And there's a lot of people that were better than me at baseball that never got there because the stars just didn't align. Like, I think there has to, that can't be like overstated, that like there's just some things that are out of control.
Yeah.
Some things out of your control, and it just doesn't make it right. It's just you got to find a way to live with it and move on, because otherwise you're just gonna wrap yourself up in it, and that'll be the rest of your life just wrapped up in it.
Now, I was bitter Bob for about a year or two after I got done playing. What was your, especially, I mean, I didn't get baseball ripped out of me. Like, I had to retire, right? I'm 26. I'm an independent ball. Like, it's time to move on. Wasn't going to be the guy, 35 playing indie ball like you see sometimes. But, like, how was your transition out of the game? Like, were you at peace with everything, or was there still some sort of like, man, what it could have been, and the aftermath of like knowing what the whole thing, like how was your transition?
I mean, a lot of it is like what you see and what's put in front of you. Like, you see the contracts because you were in those rooms, and you're like, man, I could have been that. If I was never in the room, I would have never known. Kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
Like, when you're around it, I think there's just such a comparison stuff with human nature. But like I said, I had a moment in Albuquerque that I was like, okay, like, it's time to move on. Doesn't make it easy. Yeah. Doesn't make it easy. I mean, my identity was wrapped up in it since I was 3 years old, pretty much. But I was mentally ready to move on from baseball.
Yeah.
Was I over all the hurt of it? No. But was I ready to like give up the physical aspect of competing? Yes, I was at that point, and I think I was lucky enough to be at that point where a lot of athletes, they still have a lot left in them physically, where they feel like they physically can still do it and it's still ripped out from underneath them. So at least that aspect was gone for me.
Yeah.
That part's nice. Like, knowing physically I couldn't do it anymore, there's at least a little bit of like relief in that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, did I potentially make some terrible decisions along the way and leave some money on the table for my family, like that kind of stuff? Sure, but everybody has that. Yeah. I feel like most people have that. Like, you're never going to make all the right decisions. It's just not going to happen.
I've always said, like, baseball is such a great teacher of life, because it's like, especially as a hitter, like, it's just failure, constant failure, right? Like, if you're now in today's game, right, if you get if you're a 200 hitter, not a 300, right, you're failing 8 out of 10 times. It used to be like 300, you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're going to make it to now it seems like the Mendoza line has changed quite a bit with the game, but it's like, it's a game of failure. And so it's like, for me, it took me a couple years to kind of, it's like, I went through the process of like, what was all this for? Yeah. A little bit, Yeah. I was like, some of my thoughts was like, well, I'm 5 years behind. Everybody else, they started their careers and they got their jobs, and I'm sitting over here like, what was all this for? But then a couple years down the line, it's like, very grateful, because it's like it is such a great teacher of the game of life. Like, you don't get that job, you don't, all the unexplainable things. It's like you dealt with that as a player, and it makes the real world easier, so to speak.
Yeah, easier. And I think. So essentially retired. I took the summer off. I was like, I was lucky enough to make enough money where I didn't have to jump into a career
right away.
I knew that I wanted to start a business, and I had the energy to do it. And I knew at the core of everything I've ever done, I've always wanted to help people. So I knew that in my next career was something I wanted to do. Didn't know exactly how that looked. But yeah, I talked to a couple of buddies that I played college ball with. And one was a D1 All-American, never got drafted. So you can imagine how that goes. So, you're D1 All-American, you're expected to go play pro ball, doesn't happen. Then you're like, well, I'm picking up the pieces a little bit. Like here, Tyler's his name, he went into tech sales and just absolutely killed it. He's been doing it for like 13 years. Then my other buddy went to the Oriole system for a couple of years. They told him his time was done with baseball. He moved into med device. So the core of it is like we got together. I asked him, I was like, hey, when you got done, what was your process like? What did it look like for you? Because the one thing I've been lucky enough is to have a lot of mentors in my life that I trust. And they were like, hey, we have this idea. We struggled when we got out of sports, but we didn't have a lot of help. Like, we had to figure it out ourselves. And the game moves on. And the team that you were with, when you're done, they don't follow up. There's no follow up. Like, hey, what are you doing now? Like, do you need help doing this? Like, once you're off the payroll,
that's where the Players Association.
Once you're off the payroll, you're off the payroll. And they were like, yeah, we want to start this idea to help athletes transition, because it's a huge. First of all, it's a huge problem that a lot of athletes run into. Every athlete, eventually their time playing is done. So that's a fact. And then it's like, okay, where do they end up? Where do they end up? Are they actually taught what's out there, or they just take the first thing going? So they were like, hey, we want to help guys and gals when they're done playing. First of all, get over the identity aspect of it, and then mentor them into a career that is sustainable and fulfilling and can be competitive, and work with them to figure out what that is. And then we started On Base Group. We started about a year ago, but on paper about 6 months ago, and it's been a hit, man. It's been great.
So then, connecting with Division I athletes, professional, just mixed bag.
Yeah,
primarily athletes.
It's pretty much all athletes. So we work with schools. So we do like student athletes, but we do professional athletes as well, and we have a really good network of former athletes. And what we do is essentially we go to these sales leaders, because a lot of guys and gals that play pro ball, they don't have their degree. It's easier to get into sales positions, and they're great at it. And there's a lot of money to be made. There's great careers to be had. So we partner with sales leaders that love the DNA of athletes. They love that the grit is like the number one thing they're after. It's like sales can be a very failure sport in itself. It's a contact sport. Yeah, you're gonna. You're not gonna get everybody on the phone to say yes to you. It's just part of it. But so they love the grit of athletes, and they pretty much want to hire athletes, and we kind of bridge the gap. We do everything from like just be a resource to them, like when they're. So I guess the way I look at it is, when I first got into it, it was therapeutic for me to talk to other athletes that were transitioning and figuring out what's next, because I was kind of in that stage. So it started out therapeutic, where I was like talking with them, hey, there's life after baseball, and connecting the dots for them. Like we're kind of building this ecosystem of people who were former athletes that have been successful, like yourself and my business partners, that can give you the guidance to be like, hey, everything's gonna be fine. We just got to get you in the right space that you're passionate about, and then go from there. So for me, it started out therapeutic, where I'm talking with athletes, telling them my story, them telling me their story. And I think just talking about it is great. Like, I think it's super helpful to them. It was super helpful for me. Now, a year into it, it's transitioning more for me. I'm kind of over the therapeutic part of it and more into the mentorship.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, hey, like I was there, but we have to kind of move forward. We have to find the next thing. And what I've realized is, like, I talk with CEOs of companies that were athletes 30 years ago, they still miss the sport. It's not something that goes away completely. And I think understanding that it's not something that's ever going to go away completely, that competitiveness, it's just, how do you use it? How do you use it for the next thing? How do you utilize those skill sets is really important. And we see being a student athlete as job experience.
I mean, if you can go 1 for 37, you can overcome a lot.
You can overcome seriously. Yeah, seriously.
But
I mean, it's
like as stupid as that sounds, right? Like, there's a reality to that, right?
Yeah.
You call 37 people, and 30 of them don't answer, and 6 of them tell you to F off. Like, there is a level of, you haven't sold anything, right? And that's the whole thing, is everyone's looking for sales experience, but it's like, how do you handle failure?
Yeah.
It's kind of like sales.
And I think,
in some regard.
and it's been super well received. There's we work with a lot of companies that want to hire athletes. They're like, hey, I want the DNA of an athlete. I love all aspects of an athlete, as far as all the grit, all the intangible stuff you kind of can't teach. And then they're like, we'll train them. And we do a training program as well, which is kind of where we're evolving. Is not every company can use third-party recruiters. So we have like our own training program where we're like, hey, learn from Tyler, our CEO, who was a VP of sales at 3 companies that all exited and made crazy money, was very successful. He's doing this full-time now. It's me and him doing it on base together. And he teaches a sales program that's beneficial, that can get you it helps you get in the door everywhere. Maybe there's let's just say like an Oracle of the world. They have 10,000 employees, but they don't use external recruiters. Our training program can get you in the door there. We can't get you in the door ourselves, like get you right to the sales leader, but the training can get you the right, get you in the right place with the right message to get hired for a company like that.
Sure. So let's say, I'm Scott Schebler, and I approach, you approach me, right? Like, so what's, I just played all this time, call it 10 years. Let's just say I was a 10-year guy. I didn't make it up to the big leagues. I'm a lifer minor leaguer. I'm bum. but I go, I don't know what's next. Like baseball's been my everything, which is a lot of guys, right? And most guys, you make it to a certain level, like you're laser focused, just like you explained, like I was where my feet are at, and all of a sudden everything's ripped off. So what's the first step for them? Like figuring out like, what's your why? Because it's like their why was baseball.
Yeah.
So like, what do you tell these guys?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is just having a conversation with them, understanding where they're at, because that's a big part of it. I mean, a question I always ask is like, how much thought have you given to what's next? If baseball, because some of them are still chasing and they're kind of in that in between, and it's like, how much thought have you given to what's after baseball? A lot of them are like, I haven't really given a lot of thought, and so which is probably why we bring them in, and like, I mean, I was the same way, and any athlete, if you're not fully focused on your sport and you don't think you're not gonna make it in general.
No, you
have to be all in. That's the only way you're gonna make
anything, especially in business too. Like you can't.
There's no half-assing it. It's like baseball. Like there was no backup plan. And I think that's the reason I got to where I got, because there was no backup. If I every strikeout was like, man, I probably should go back to school, or I probably should take this online class to get ready for business. Like that's gonna get me further away from baseball and more. Like your brain is very like your thought process and your thoughts are so important. And if you start edging that way, it's funny how like you start ended up kind of going that direction. Yeah. Like your thoughts are very, very important. And so, I mean, let's just say you come to me and we have a conversation. Yep. We're just having a regular conversation and we're like, hey, we're kind of in explore mode. We're trying to figure out what you want to do next. The cool part is we have individuals, and we're very fortunate to have partnerships with guys that want to help former athletes. So you come to me, you're like, hey, I don't know what's next. And I'm like, hey, let's have a conversation with all of our network. So I'm going to have you call Derek. He does our insurance. He played college baseball, went into insurance, and has been super successful. I'm going to have you have a conversation with him about insurance. You can ask him any question you want. You can get all the day-to-day. He's done it. He's doing it right now. You can get everything off the table. You can figure out if that's something you like. Then we have Tyler, who does tech sales. So you'd have a conversation with him. He's going to tell you, hey, what does the day in the life look like of this? What are the things that I can be competitive at in this industry? You can get all those questions to somebody who's done it and been there. Then we have Joel, who does med device. So we've built this thing where we have people who are in the industry or were very highly in the industry that want to have conversations with athletes that are transitioning to figure out what is next and what they're passionate about.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like 3 avenues. Could be more.
Well, there's more. There's more. There's plenty more. I just given you examples of what of.
So
like
you're using your own networks.
Yeah, using our own networks of like, hey, have a conversation with somebody. It's always easier for an athlete to trust. Not saying. I'm just saying, if you come to me and I've been through there, the trust factor is already there. I've been through it. Like Tyler's been to the top of the food chain in tech sales, and he was a former athlete and transitioned. He's lived what you're about to live next. So like I feel like that allows the athletes that we work with to let their guard down and to actually get to the core of what they're passionate about and what's next. And sometimes they're like, hey, I'm just not ready. And those are conversations we have all the time. Like I think our focus, yes, we want to, like, we run a business and we do work with companies that see the athlete DNA and want to hire athletes, but we are not pushy. Like we need you to be, because if you go into an interview process and you're already like in between, you're not going to do the interview very well.
Yeah.
So we want you to be like passionate about what you're going into. And sometimes that takes time. Sometimes that takes 5 interviews with different companies to figure out like, hey, I don't know if that company's a fit.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable, going into interviews and just interviewing and maybe not doing well your first interview and figuring out like there's just like the experience level of like, hey, I did this interview, this didn't go well. We get feedback for you from the sales leader about what went wrong in the interview. We give you that, and we're essentially working with you to get you to a place that is where you want to be.
And then I remember you saying there's like you guys have resources to like help build resumes, that sort of thing, because it's like, I mean, building a resume is, I mean, nowadays too, because it's like they have these application trackers where like you essentially are submitting an application, and if your stuff doesn't pick up in their algorithm or their scanning,
they might put 3 keywords in it. If you don't have those keywords or whatever in there or a certain amount of experience, they're not even reading your resume. I think resumes eventually will be gone, I hope. But right now they're still there. They're still a very big piece of it.
So really, you're kind of walking them through step 8, or call it step A to Z, in terms of like transitioning from your career professionally as an athlete or division, whatever, any athlete, and then getting them connected not only to companies but also the resources that they need to equip them, whether it be an interview, resume, or just the right contacts, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler runs, like I said, he runs a sales program where he gives you, I mean, he hired for 10 years, hired people. So he knows the interview process inside and out. He knows how to sell. He knows all the strategies, all the techniques. He can teach you all this to get you so far above anybody else. I think that's a thing that our athletes utilize, and it works out really well for them when they do it. But yeah, I mean, it's just being a mentor. Like, I think that is at the core of what we want to do, is like having the athlete understand, first of all, they're not alone, like, and what they're going through is normal. I feel like we have a lot of conversations where like, man, is it normal to have these thoughts? Like when I'm done playing, it's like, yeah, I had these thoughts. And then they talk to the next guy that we get them to, or we connect them with somebody I used to play with, or somebody we've placed already. Yeah. And like, we're trying to build this like just connections of like, hey, if you need this, here's a resource, and have a conversation because they've been there. And it honestly works pretty beautifully. It works seamlessly where a lot of athletes come out and like we may not even get them a job, but like just having them understand that, first of all, what they're going through emotionally when they get done is okay, and honestly 99% of athletes have those thoughts when they're done, and then just honestly giving them a network to build their confidence, because that's a big thing with athletes, is building your confidence through the interview process, through resume building, telling them they're doing the right things, saying like just honestly building confidence is a huge part of what we do. It's
coaching.
Yeah, it's coaching.
They've been coached their entire lives.
It's essentially coaching, but yeah, we're building confidence to get them to go. And I think the cool part about what we're building is like we're opening doors, and what I mean by that is like a lot of guys don't know guys and gals, first of all, apologies. We work with a lot of gals as well, former athletes, and they don't really know what's out there. They've been so focused on their sport, they don't even know like where to start. Yeah. There's so many options when you get out. You're like, well, I could go down this road, or I could go down this road, but with having a conversation with us, we can give you a bigger picture of what's out there, and not only that, we can tell you where in 5 years, if you do the right steps, this is where you can be.
Yeah, that's important too, because most people don't know what's next. Yeah, it's just like, okay, I did this thing for basically 30 years or maybe less, maybe more, and then it's just cut off. But then there hasn't been, because I don't know if you're on there's a Facebook group for and current minor league or big league guys, and it's like I see it all the time. Hey guys, I'm really struggling. And there seems to be a definite lack of resource for guys, just specifically for baseball. I'm sure every sport has it, but it's like this. Between that and now the pay's gotten better for minor league baseball, but I remember when I was playing, it was like I couldn't complain about what I was getting paid because there were friends of mine dying to have an opportunity to complain about that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
it's like this. It's a kind of like this. I don't want to say the transition, like you're silenced, because you're definitely not silenced. You could reach out to people, but it's like there's definitely the initial. For some guys, some other guys are like ready. Like
Yeah.
I played with a guy that, or I didn't play with him, but he's an Indiana State guy. But like the guy always wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
Like he was talking about when he was playing pro ball, and it was like he got done playing. He's like, like he was relieved.
Yeah.
He could go be a cop.
Yeah.
But
that's rare.
Not most
rare,
people.
yeah.
You know, most people, they're not ending on their terms. Like which, you know, you could say yes, you ended on your terms, but had there not been an injury, right? Or you know, they got released, and they don't, you know, like they didn't feel like they were able to end it on, and it's usually the case.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I always try to. I mean, Albert Pujols got DFA'd. You know,
Yeah,
like
true.
let that sink in a little bit. Like
Yeah.
everybody gets to the end at some point.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to the end. I mean, we've tried to have conversations with the PA. Would be cool to
Needs
kind
to.
of link up with them. I mean, I think we could be a great resource for players when they're done. I mean, we're already building a network of former minor league and major league guys. Yeah, but it would be cool to work directly with them, and that way we could almost, because a lot of players won't take advantage of the courses or anything like that when they're playing because they don't want to think about it, which I wouldn't have either. I wouldn't have been like, hey, I'm in the big leagues or I'm in the minor leagues right now. I'm going to take this training program for like the next thing. Like that's almost like reverse.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
You're like you in your mind, and probably in my mind, I'm like, well, then I think I'm not going to stay here.
Yeah, you're already like giving yourself up.
Yeah, you're already planning a little tiny.
So I wouldn't have done it either, but I think like being able to get to them right when they're done and not necessarily have them, you know, go through it alone. Essentially, it's like, hey, here's a resource. Here's like have a conversation.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that social media has kind of hurt and helped is like, I think we don't have as many conversations with people as we want. We think we are because we're seeing
Connected,
it and we're connected, but we're not actually having conversations. I'm reading about something that somebody's doing, but I'm not talking directly with them, which is a completely different connection point than me reading about what you're doing now. And of course, you're obviously seeing mostly the good, glorious stuff on those
highlight reels.
But
yeah.
I think actually having a conversation and understanding like this is unfortunately this is the way it goes for most, if not all, athletes. And just having an actual heart-to-heart, and it doesn't have to be a heart-to-heart, but, I mean, we have those every day. It's like, hey, man, or I always say, just have the conversation, I think, with us. I think we're very low pressure. We just want to help. We want to help in any way we can. If all you need us to do is help, like, build a resume, like, we're happy to do it. And I think if it's just look at how our relationship started. Yeah. You reached out to me on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Now we are trying to buy stuff on B stock together. You know what I mean? Like it's such a natural thing when you have already so many common things that you have commonalities. It's like, just have the conversation. It's amazing where that one conversation can go.
I always try to, when I see guys update, like, you know, just I think it was yesterday, the day before, I saw a guy that just officially retired, started his professional career, and it's like, always will send a message and just say, hey, like, congrats, man. Like, like the other side's not so bad. Like, it's really not. And it took me a while to realize, like, because you mentioned at the very beginning, you put your identity into something at such a young age. I think you had said, like, what, you put your identity in baseball at 8, and you were lucky enough to be distracted and have all these different things. But it's like, there's much more to life than baseball. Don't get me wrong. Baseball has given me and probably yourself a lot of opportunities and met a lot of interesting, cool people and traveled because of it. But it's like you can still, you know, find the fulfillment in other areas. But it just takes a little time. Time does heal a lot of things.
I think some of my favorite calls are, you know, people we place who we talk to 6 months down the line, and they're like,
hot mess.
Actually, I mean, they kill it. I mean,
no, I mean like from when they first started.
I mean, we have me and Tyler have a saying. It's like when we get a sales leader and they're like a little iffy on it, and we're like, just like once we get the first one in the door, the floodgates open. Yeah. They're like, oh, this is the kind of DNA person we're hiring. Like, they're like, how many more can we hire? Like, we love like We love the DNA. Like we
Yeah.
love the grit. Like they come in, they want to be competitive. They're okay with like all these factors that, they learn through just being an
And they're
athlete.
coachable.
They're coachable. And
Yeah.
the big one is they're culture builders. Like being on a team is part of it. I mean, yeah, there's individual sports, but a lot of it is team sports, and a lot of camaraderie in the workspace. It can be like a very big culture building experience, and it's really good for that.
Now, as we wrap up here, I always like to ask people, like, I'm a financial guy, but like, what is the best investment one person can make? Doesn't need to be actual money we're talking about, but like, what's the best investment in your own experience that you can make?
Oh man, that's a good one. That's a good question. Give me a second. Best investment you can make. I mean, recently married, but yeah, I would say just finding the right partner.
Finding the right
partner is
That's a good one.
Is huge. Yeah, that was a tough part about playing too, the sacrificing kind of the relationship side of life as well. So that's a part of my life that I feel like is in a much better place than when I played. And but yeah, investing in finding the right partner.
Yeah, it's an underrated one too, because it's like, you're going to spend the rest of your life with somebody.
Yeah.
You might as well find somebody that's fun to do it with, and that's going to support,
Yeah.
your crazy ideas or
Yeah.
stupid things you do,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's already hard enough. Don't make it any harder on yourself.
Yeah, no, I would say that's up there. That's got to be probably number one. I mean, I would say invest in yourself. Just time into yourself.
Yeah.
Give yourself a little grace, especially when you're done playing, to like know that you're going into a world that you're not an expert in, and give yourself the grace and the time to figure it out. It's like baseball, or it's like any sport. You're not an expert the first time you play it. And with business, it's the same way.
Yeah.
You're not gonna. You go in and you do the right things like you did in the past when you were in your sport. Good things are gonna happen. Like, have the right mindset, have the process figured out, but like knowing and giving yourself grace to be like, because it can be tough. Like I'm guilty of this as well. Is like, I was successful in baseball, and I think you go from this level of success, and then maybe you're like, oh well, I'm going into a world where I'm not seen that way anymore, and that can be really tough. Like first steps is like, hey, I'm kind of like starting at a little lower position. I think giving yourself the grace and the time to be like, hey, this is where I'm at right now. Like having a conversation and be like, this is where I'm at right now, but this is also where I was at before I started playing as well.
Yeah.
Like this happened. It's like building blocks. Like we really like giving yourself the grace and the time to figure it out, and not being too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Is like really important as well.
Easier said than done, but yes.
So yeah, a lot easier said than done for sure.
Where can people find you? Like, hey, heard this interesting group, like LinkedIn. Like, what's the best way to find you and or like on base?
I would say LinkedIn. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. We have a website, onbasegroup.com, where you can reach out to us and join our network, and we'll reach out. We get, you join our network, we'll reach out, have a conversation, and see where you're at. And this can happen when you're playing. It can happen when you're 2 years down the road. It doesn't really matter. We just want to have a conversation and see how we can help. At the core of it is helping people.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Scott, appreciate the time, and thanks for joining.
Appreciate it.